Ben Dobbin, James Graham, James Hooper, Gorden Tallis with you for the next 4 hours ahead of what will be an epic game of rugby league. Manly taking on the Roosters from Fort Pines Park. Then following that, the Dragons taking on the Dolphins from KO Stadium. So much to get through today. A very good afternoon, James Graham. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Ben. It's been a cracking weekend of football, and what about those two games yesterday going down to the wire, the Golden Point extravaganza up at Townsville, and that finish. Oh my goodness me, how good is rugby league? Like, what a sport. It was just a pleasure to watch yesterday.
Yeah, we will get to the Storm 30, Warriors 26. We'll have Ryan Pappenhausen joining us a little later. The Cowboys were 21 in extra time over the Knights 20. Todd Payton will join us. We'll talk with Ricky Stuart a bit later as well. Gorden Tallis, good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yeah, James couldn't have said it better. It was unbelievable. I was sitting on the couch, did all the chores. Not often you wake up, but did all the chores and sat down to watch it, and I'm thinking, with the Raiders, it could have been bad, but even that game, and then the Cowboys to just keep on fighting back. What was it, 12-0 to come back, mate? What an afternoon of rugby league.
It was special.
And Melbourne Storm is just.
Yeah, that was the grand finale.
That game should have been played at the Sphere in Vegas, and it should have been. And then with that finish, mate, with the encore, it should have just been played somewhere else.
Yeah, it was special. We are going to talk about that coach in that try in the last 15 seconds. Xavier Coates, unbelievable. James Hooper, a very good afternoon to you, my friend.
Good afternoon to everybody up and down the eastern seaboard. Epic weekend of football so far. And Xavier Coates, what a finish.
Wow.
We're going to be talking about that try for a long, long time to come, and rightly so.
Yeah, it was so special, and you just felt that game had something in it. It was back and forth. We'll unpack that, and also we'll talk about South Sydney today. Canberra in the winning circle. We'll also look at where are the Bulldogs at. Lots to get through as well, but that game that we will be calling that 4 p.m. game in Sydney, 3 p.m. in Queensland, which will be a titanic clash. Manly taking on the Roosters. Jared Hargave's 300 as well. Pretty special day for the front rower. But let's talk about the first game from yesterday, guys, and get straight into it. The Raiders defeating the West Tigers 32 points to 12. It was the Tigers' first outing as they had the bye in round one. Hoops, I'll start with you. You're a Tigers fan. There was some green shoots, but not many. It was a disappointing performance for me by the West Tigers when we're expecting a different style of play with the new coach, Benji Marshall, and also the West Tigers.
Yeah, 12-0, I had grave concerns. I thought it could have really blown out. So I was actually happy that the West Tigers were able to get themselves into the arm wrestle. You touched on green shoots there. Dobbo, I thought there were some positive signs. The debut of young Lockie Galvin and the fact that he's going to be prepared to take some risks the way that he did when he helped set up that try for young Fainu, the front rower. Look, it's going to be another long season by the looks of things for the Legion of West Tigers members and supporters. But I think they're conditioned to it now, Dobbo. They understand that you can't work miracles overnight, and Benji's got a massive job in front of him.
Well, I think, Hoops, looking at yesterday's game, I was similar to you, the 12-0 start, and I think that the Raiders had completed their first 8 and the Tigers hadn't got through a set. So they were on the back foot, and that was their own demise. They didn't get the kick away the first time they had the football. These are some of the fundamentals. But because we thought they were going to get the cleaners ran through them, I thought they showed a lot of grit and a lot of resolve to fight their way back into the game. I think in years gone by, the Tigers have crumbled and gave up. Where they need to be, absolutely not. But I think there is a sign of improvement there. There are a couple of things that happened that people called embarrassing. The try from the tap penalty, where they just caught young Sullivan napping on the short side. Now, those things are on all the time. I've seen that's a trend in the game where a half will go to in the wing position off a tap or off a kickoff, and they just tend to think they're there for a rest. But that was a planned move by the Canberra Raiders. That was pre-planned. I think in the Fox commentary they said Ricky Stuart yelled out special tap. So it's obviously something they've got in their arsenal that they've seen on video, a sign of that player, particular player or that team not having that attention to detail and closing down opportunities. The Tigers presented the opportunity for the Canberra Raiders, and they took a real advantage of that. I think as well, for me, look, I'm never a fan of having a halfback on the bench. And, for Caesar to come on for the last 25 minutes, for Sullivan, I think, a lot gets made of Benji's coaching, and that's been spoken about all week. And I think, for me, for a halfback, and Benji knows what it's like for a half. He was a half off the bench that came on for South Sydney, a little bit of a plug the gap or come on for a bit of X factor. I don't think Caesar's that type of player that can come on and make a difference. He either needs to play 80 minutes or Sullivan needs to play 80 minutes.
It looked like an insurance policy. It looked like, okay, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to pick the 18-year-old local junior in Lachlan Galvin, but I might just hedge my bets a little bit.
In case something went wrong.
Because I'm going to pair him with Jaden Sullivan, who's also relatively green in terms of his NRL experience. But I'm with you, Jimmy. I think hopefully for next week, they just pick a 7 and 6, and then they go with a more of a formulation bench.
Yeah, carrying a number 7, and I think Queensland have done it so well, but that's at state of origin level. But when you say it was a Ben Hunt that would play hooker, there was a Cooper Cronk that would come on and play hooker. Like, you don't sit them there to come on and just play halves unless Caesar can come on and jump into dummy half and knock up 25 tackles in the middle and jump into that role. That's the luxury of having a key playmaker to come on that might play 9 and they move him around or throw him into 7 or 6. But, the worrying sign for the Tigers, and I know that they are rebuilding, is like I opened up the paper this morning, they pretty much only won one of their other grades as well. So like then in the basket that they've got is Luai coming. Does Luai fix all those problems? And I know that Jimmy Graham, that they were resilient yesterday, but it's round 1. That's their first game.
Yeah, we're talking about them being resilient. They lost 32 points to 12. Let's not sugarcoat. We're saying, they showed some grit.
Given. No, that's a given. If you're paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do your job, you turn up and want to do it. So like with the Tigers, I don't know. I thought that yes, they going down. It should have they should have exploded out of the gates after watching Vegas, watching last week's rounds. They should have been itching. Jimmy, could you imagine as a player, right, sitting there watching the games before you, the weekend before you, or 2 weeks before you, and then coming and then waiting to play?
Well, yeah, you'd be itching. You'd be desperate to get out there. A long preseason. You've got the bye in round 1, which is over 2 weeks. So you're just bursting out of your skin
football
to get a game under your belt. And look, the way they started was awful. Like, that is just.
That's my point.
It was awful. But I think. Is it going to be a long year for the Tigers? Absolutely. But I think in terms of what I witnessed yesterday, I thought that was an improvement from the last year and the year before. Because, like I say, I think the Tigers crumbled, they implode, and the scoreboard keeps ticking over. And perhaps that was brought about by some youth that don't have the same scars. We saw that the first try that the Tigers scored, that was a risky play, like high risk, high reward style of football that isn't thinking about kicking to corners, which you can argue there's pros and cons for doing both, but that was a group of players combining that didn't seem to have that same level of fear, and they got themselves back into the game and into the contest, but then ultimately they paid the price, and then there was a couple of injuries for both teams, and Canberra, really, they coasted towards that back end, but I genuinely believe it's an improvement for the Tigers.
Yeah, and look, as you said earlier, Hoops, some green shoots with Lachie Galvin. I mean, he had a really great debut yesterday, and if he's going to be their man, he's only going to get better and better as he gets more time on the park playing first grade. Can we just talk about Canberra? A lot of people had Canberra pegged, and a lot of experts had Canberra pegged in the bottom half of the competition this year. They've shown a completely different style of football once again this year. And I think a lot of people have underestimated how competitive they be. They've got the Warriors next week. Sure, the Warriors.
You'll see where they're at when they play Penrith and the Warriors.
They were. I mean, the signing of Zach Hosking. We're going to talk with Ricky. I think he has just shown he's an out-and-out first grader, outstanding. Like yesterday, once again, unbelievable. This halves combination. Hoops, it seems to be working as well. I know it's early doors. I get that. But did we underestimate Canberra a fraction?
Oh, absolutely. No question. I don't think anybody had them in their 8. And that's the way that their coach, Ricky Stuart, likes it. I think it's an example of good coaching, Dobbo, that, they've lost Jack Whiten. And I think most of us thought, okay, well, he's the heartbeat of the Raiders. And that means that they're going to be heading south in terms of the premiership ladder. But Jamal Fogarty is in career best form over the opening couple of rounds. The direction, the control that he is playing with at the moment, his kicking game, some of those
they're insane.
Some of those bombs that he's putting up, the floaters that obviously Nathan Cleary has made fashionable, they're out of this world. And the bloke who has probably impressed me the most, look, their forward pack's unsung, but they're just hardened professionals, and it's an international pack with Tarpanay and Papali'i and Hudson Young. It's an impressive forward pack. But the young 5'8", Ethan Strange, the way that he's just quietly come in, and there's been a lot of noise around plenty of other rookies that have been making an entrance into the NRL. He's just gone about his business. Super impressive, looks really tough, and looks like he's prepared to take risks as well.
I loved his second try, right? Obviously, like when you get a young half, would you say a young player? They come in, they're excited, but everybody around them is more important, so they tend to pass and don't back themselves. He went left foot. He beat, I think it was Jareem Buller, and slammed the ball down. But I'm just thinking he's going, hey, this is what I bring. And normally it's comes after 50 or 100 games where they go, hey, actually, I might start putting on my own plays and do my pet plays. I thought it was fantastic for him to run the ball so early in his career.
Yeah, I think for me, looking at the Canberra Raiders, Ricky Stuart, obviously one of the most experienced coaches here in the NRL. I think he's got them playing a style of football that really suits the personnel at his disposal. So round 1 and round 2, they've completed at 90% for both their games so far, which I think speaks volumes about the style and type of football that the Canberra Raiders are going to play. They were quite simple against the Knights. We saw a bit more of expansive style, but they kept hold of the football. So that for me is clear that the Raiders come in with a game plan, complete high, and do your best for the opposition. So they're going to be in the fight for their games. Like Ricky Stuart, he's tapped into things there. Their forward pack is so strong. It's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to speaking to Ricky Stuart for when Whitehead and Corey Horsburgh return to the fray, because they've got genuine competition for places in that team. But I think one of the players that really excites me every time they move the ball to the right edge, Tomoko, what a player this guy is. Like we've seen him in and around the first team for the past year or year and a half, but he's been sensational. He looks so dangerous whenever he gets the ball. He's bursting tackles, he's fighting he's getting his team quick play the balls. What a player they've got on their hands down there.
Yeah, he's very, very good. Can we just touch on, obviously, the Benji fiasco this week? Everybody talking about Benji not wanting to be a 24/7. Well, I don't see the problem. Yeah. No,
because sometimes you don't get your words properly.
I said a fiasco.
Oh, right.
So, calm down, please. Behave. Can I ask everybody about their thoughts on this? I didn't have a problem. Benji's come out since and said, listen, I never said that. There's been some reports about that he's not going to be at the club all the time coaching 24/7. There's a certain time during the day that he just wants to have that with family time.
Can I tell you something? This is my opinion. Benji can do his own thing, and he's beat by his own drum his whole life, right? That Ethan Strange try, I don't think he gets scored against Melbourne Storm. So I think Craig Bellamy would have pulled out all of that young kid's footage and watched it. I went down to pre-season, right, in Melbourne, and I've told this story a few times. I reckon it was 15 years ago. I went down and I was staying at Craig's. Pre-season, like this is before Christmas. He gets home at 9:30 at night. So my theory is, if that guy is doing that, how do you beat him? If you're building a house and someone
What about work smarter, work harder?
Okay, good. Let me finish. If someone starts
That
building
doesn't
his
make
house,
any sense, Ben.
If someone starts building a house at 6 o'clock in the morning and finishes at 6 o'clock at night, and you come in at 8 and 3, Are you going to finish the house quicker than him?
It's completely different. You might be a quicker builder than the other bloke. Some people take longer to look at things. Some people can, just because you're putting. So what you're saying to be a coach, you need to get a coach.
So I just said that he wouldn't have scored that try against Melbourne because Craig would have watched that kid's footage and watched 20 games and got it all cut up and go, guys, this young kid, and then Melbourne would have known just as much about that kid as the guys that have played 100 games. That's my point. That's my point. So how do you coach
Some people can pick defence quicker than Craig Bellamy. What's stopping Benji Marshall saying, I can look at that and I know how to counteract
they got
that?
beaten 32 points.
Yeah, I realise that, but that argument is flawed, Gordon.
Why is it?
Because just because somebody takes
flawed?
15 hours a day to coach doesn't mean that is the manual
I
script.
never said that was right. I said Benji will do it his own way. I just come up with one play and I just know that that kid would not have scored that try against Melbourne. I just know that, right? As a rugby league watcher, right, and when you play against a good side, stages 10, to know what every player, because kids want to be fed information these days, right? So the more information you get them, the better the decision you can make. With that young guy playing, if I'm an old guy and you go, I don't know what he's going to do. Craig Bellingwood said, listen, this kid's a great ball runner. Watch him. He's got a great left foot step. He's going to take you on. So when you're tight in defence, watch him. It looks like that the Tigers players, I'm just picking out one thing. Maybe they were told. Maybe that kid's going to get a revving. But I'm just saying that try, in my opinion, does not get scored against Melbourne Storm. Coach the way you want because you live and die by the sword. But I'm just saying that if Benji wants to coach against the coaches that coach, because he's following the Wayne Bennett mould, right? Because Wayne doesn't turn up all the time. Wayne Bennett's coached 900 games. He's got a bag full of magic dust. And he makes decisions that no one sees. And Wayne Bennett is always coaching. Wayne Bennett is always coaching. Don't think that he's not coaching. Wayne doesn't have to be there because he's already there, because Wayne's respect in the game is here. Right? It is so high. That's what I'm saying. I can't come in and coach like Wayne Bennett because I don't have his magic dust. I don't have Wayne Bennett saying that and a player going out and whinging to the media and it leaking.
Yeah.
Because Wayne gets rid of that guy.
That's a big issue, isn't it, Gordy? Yes. The fact that, you know, this story has appeared off the back of somebody leaking to the press about the fact that
Benji's not there.
Benji, you know, sometimes, that's what's being reported. And look, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's different coaching philosophies.
Absolutely.
And there's different times to apply that coaching philosophy. Sometimes less is more, and sometimes more is better. I think, you know, it's interesting about this talk about the replicating the style of Wayne Bennett. Now, obviously, the Tigers didn't get the result, but what this storyline did is take the focus away from the Tigers playing group and all on Benji Marshall. Now, this is a tack that Wayne Bennett does so well. In the big games, he'll make the attention go to him and he'll cop it and he'll wear it. Now, I don't know whether this was by design or by accident, but that was certainly the talk in the build-up. It was all about Benji Marshall. It wasn't about this new Tigers team or anything that they were trying to implement. So the pressure was sort of off them. The attention wasn't with them. But, you know, for me, I think if you're a head coach, you have to be fully consumed by the job. It's the nature. It comes with the territory. And also, you know, Benji's come out and said, you know, I don't like it because it's lies. It's not true. You know, yes, I do have a few hours of the day where I focus on my family, but you know,
and no one begrudges him that.
No, of course not.
No,
of course
absolutely
not.
not.
Benji's smart enough to know that as a head coach, yes, you will become consumed by it, but also part of the territory and part of the job means dealing with lies, dealing with rumours, dealing with agendas through the media, dealing with falsehoods. You know, and for him to react the way that he did, I think that is the inexperienced coach. So, you know, imagine the story was to come out about, say, a Hasler or a Bellamy. About how
they wouldn't come out.
They wouldn't come out. But imagine if it did, they'd just laugh it off.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't react. They
wouldn't
react.
Craig Bellamy's in the gym first, and then there's rumours, right? So these are the rumours about Craig.
Yeah.
Someone turned up early. They're hearing a noise in their gym in the dark, and he's smashing himself on the rower at 5 a.m. before the players even think of coming in, and he's the last one to leave the building. You know what I mean? So as I said, I hope Benji's successful. I hope the Tigers win. I actually do. I got a real soft spot for Balmain. That was my favourite team with Ciro and Blocker and those guys. That was the jersey that I wore as a kid. I played for the Tigers. And I think the game needs a successful West Tigers. But I know that I'm better at my job when I watch every game. I know for me as a commentator, if I'm reading someone's opinion or if I'm watching the highlights, I don't get the whole picture of the game to give you my opinion on how your team's playing. I know that. So in my job, I've got to watch all the games. In Benji's job, he's got to watch all the games, see all the new trends that are out doing it. I know in State of Origin, right? This is a secret. Queensland are better when there's an assistant coach coaching because of the trends that's happening in the game. If you have all the old blokes that sit and watch, we don't know because we don't coach it every day. So that's just if I'm giving Benji advice, I'd say, just, mate, you're going to have to work really hard, right? A bit like a player, mate, you're going to have to do more than the senior players. They've got the experience. It's human nature.
Well, sometimes as well, Gordy, you know, the talk to the players is you need to get away from the game and you need to rest. And there's different models for different roles within the game. You know, anybody in and around the high performance in business, in the corporate world, they know that, you might need some work-life balance, but fundamentally, anybody like CEOs of companies, they're working like 18 hours a day. They're on call all the time. They can never turn their phone off. And I speak to a few head coaches. Like I see Cam Serraldo down at Cronulla Beach a couple of times, and he's with his family. And even when I say hello and talk, and I can see him with his family, he's not really there.
He's not present.
He's thinking about something that's going on at the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
like he might be away and resting and
he's
having
present,
family
but he's
time.
not present. And we all heard that before.
You know, and even
I agree.
And Benji, what's going to happen with this? If Benji's
My
out
wife
for
must be a coach.
if Benji's out with his family for a meal or doing something social, you know, it's going to get spoken. Oh, should you not be at train? Should you not be doing work? Like, this is going to be the narrative now. It used to happen to me as a player, walking through the supermarket, and people would go, "Are you not training today?" It's like, well, geez,
we've got the day off.
This is the expectation of the public, and it's the expectation of everybody in the industry that coaches are completely consumed, and you have to sacrifice so much to be a top-level head coach.
I like Benji, and I know that it did hurt him. The suggestion that he's lazy and the suggestion that he doesn't work as hard as anybody else, that did cut. To Gordy's point from earlier, Benji does walk to his own beat. He always did as a player, and I think that he also will as a coach. He's got good people around him and people that he trusts in terms of his assistants. John Morris has had plenty of hands-on experience. He was coaching at Cronulla for a couple of seasons there, got him into a couple of final series. I think Benji's going to be okay. I think Benji will be all right.
Okay, we're all blokes. We understand it. We've all sworn many times in our life. It was live radio, Latrell Mitchell. It wasn't the greatest look for Latrell. I understand if a South Sydney supporter, Maroon can be like that as well. But are we asking a bit too much of him? Like,
well, let's deal with your interview first, right?
Yeah.
So let's deal with the element. Your interview, you've got the microphone, you're asking the questions. Why didn't you pull him up when he started dropping them?
Well,
because he's not a very good interviewer. Hoops,
come
that's
on,
why.
he's rugby league's version of radio. I'm sorry,
look, he's not a very good.
I'm sorry. People drop.
I think you know, in future Triple M needs to send a better interviewer up. You know, if you're going to deal with one of the stars of the game, get someone that can actually navigate it.
Mate,
I did write down. Sometimes we need reminding because I always talk about moments on myself on the field, and you got to be reminded. It just sort of hear me out. Just be reminded that, hey, there's kids listening or whatever. So why don't you, hey, mate, we're live on radio.
Well, he knew that because he said, I don't care, I'm not swearing, boys.
But then why didn't you remind him?
Well, mate, I'm sorry. Do you think that's Latrell Mitchell's first ever interview?
But why didn't you stop him?
Mate, we did stop him because it was...
No, why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you?
Latrell,
I think you were starstruck. I just don't think you can handle the big dogs.
I'm all seriousness, mate. Don't be offensive.
But why didn't you stop him?
Mate, because I didn't want to stop him.
No, because that's a question for
I didn't even think about it. Like, I'm thinking,
so you encouraged it?
No.
You wanted it to go more?
Would you have stopped him? Like, you don't even get down there and interview. You ask these little
No,
lollipop
mate, because
questions
he's-
to everybody.
no, 'cause
Mate,
he's
we asked him
captain
one
his country.
question. We asked him one question, right? And he went on that. I don't have a problem with
You
it.
say, hey, mate, pull it up.
I would have helped him out, Dobbo.
Yeah.
I would have helped him out. But
Yeah.
look, that's with the benefit of hindsight. It obviously did end up being
And
a bit of a car
experience.
crash interview. And I'm sure if Latrell had his time again, that he'd choose his words differently.
I would hope so. And after, but
So next time you're down there, just pull them up, mate. Seriously.
you want me to
Dobbo's
pull up
loving
the-
this because this is he's like
Absolutely.
it's claim
You're
to
the boss,
fame.
right? If
I
you
was the
got the
one.
microphone-
I was the
Whatever,
interviewer.
mate. I couldn't actually care. I actually feel bad
Oh,
for
so you
Latrell.
don't care.
Why
I
did you
hate
put
the
it on
fact
your
that
Instagram
Latrell's
then?
now in the headlights for the wrong reasons. When South Sydney is struggling at the moment, everybody's focused on his language instead of looking at how the team's going. That's the honest.
Then what happens next, right? If all the teams go, well, hold on. They put a microphone straight in his face. We're not
Well,
gonna
mate,
let
it's a
him
pretty
interview.
simple thing,
Yeah.
right? If you go to work and you started swearing like that, you'd be sacked. Gordon, if you started swearing like
I
that
don't
on
know.
radio,
Live
Live
yes,
on
on
a
air,
job
live
site.
on air, yes.
Mate,
you,
yes,
you would
could
be
like
sacked, right? So,
I was only
it's,
qualified to dig holes.
do you think this is
so-
Latrell's first rodeo? No. Has he had many an interview before where he has never sworn?
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Okay, so let's not say he's a rookie and this is his first.
No,
his
we're not
first ever
suggesting
go.
that.
No, mate, but
No,
we're-
well, mate, I'm
we're
sorry.
saying
I'm
you're
not going to
a
treat him like
rookie
a
either.
kid. I'm not
Mate,
going to
you're
treat him
not
like a
rookie,
kid.
and you could have pulled him up.
Mate, I'm not babysitting Latrell Mitchell. I asked him a question. He went on a rampage. We stopped the interview. See you later.
Well,
I
why
shook
were you
his hand and went
smiling?
on.
Why were you
Yeah, mate.
smiling?
Oh, mate, are you serious?
Yes.
Were you down there?
No, I've
Yes,
seen that.
mate,
No, I wasn't,
we can
clearly
see the
not.
footage on Triple
vision-
M.
Mate, I
gone
wasn't
viral.
smiling,
You
believe
were.
me.
I know.
It was an awkward smile. That's what it was.
So you were smiling.
I was like, hang on. Anyway,
No,
I don't know
that
why
wasn't.
you three absolute
asking
It's
the
not
turncoats have
rugby league's
turned back on
version of
me.
Ray Martin.
Oh, whatever. There was no Ray Martin in it, mate. You think, like, seriously? Seriously?
Ray wouldn't have let that happen.
Oh, well, you know what?
I can't believe you smiled because you were thinking
leave
that I'm
You-
going to
you've
get so
attacked
much
me.
attention.
You're blaming me for Latrell swearing. Okay, that's
We're
good
not.
to know. That's
Latrell
a
needs to take
typical
ownership.
rugby league player, deflect and never own it. That's
No.
good, both of you. You're right, and serious. I cannot believe that. It's
I'm
not
just
Latrell's
asking.
fault. It's the interviewer. He should have stopped it. Well, we did stop the interview. All right.
Well, you give off the
you-
signal that
mate,
it was
you
okay
could
by
have straight
smiling.
away.
So he's
No, I
thinking,
didn't.
this must be good. This must be entertaining.
Not one
Read
mistake.
cues.
6 or whatever it was. You could have taken the mic away from him. That's my point.
This is not going to go that. But your self-interest, and you thought, this is my claim to fame. It's my 5 minutes of fame.
not my
I'm Ben
claim to fame.
Dobbin. I was the man. Who was the man that interviewed Latrell Mitchell in the infamous interview on Triple? Oh, it's Ben Dobbin.
Are you serious?
He's loving. Do you know what, mate?
He's,
I think
he's
loving the
secretly loving
accolades.
it. Yeah.
There's no accolades, you idiot. And I'm being serious. I don't know what you three are on this morning.
Did you get your name in the Sydney paper today?
I don't know. I don't read the Sydney
Yeah,
paper.
you were
when
quoted
someone rang
in,
you
were
for a
quoted in
comment,
Buzz
did you comment?
Rothfield's
he
column in
rang
the
me on
Sunday
Friday.
Telegraph.
Oh, so you didn't know you were
Buzz
in the paper.
Rothfield rang me on Friday. I didn't know when it was for. I thought it was for Friday. I said, Latrell's a good bloke. I had no problem with it. Okay? Simple.
But now you do.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with you blokes thinking I'm the reason that he swore and I should have stopped the interview.
Yes, you could have.
Oh, well, I don't think. Hey, one thing's for sure. I don't think Latrell Mitchell gives a crap what I think and whether or not
like
I
everybody
think-
else on the planet.
Yeah, okay. Well,
So
are we going to talk about
there's
Maroon? Are we
there's
gonna
no
talk about-
crossover of people there.
Well, we need to talk about Maroon's made a comment, and rightly so. He's got off the back fence, and I'm being serious here. He's a South supporter, and he speaks on behalf of them. I think a lot of South supporters feel like that.
What?
Well, they think it's just not right.
Well, go ask our supporters. Let's do a poll whether they want Latrell in their team or not.
Well, okay.
I think.
I
Look,
asked you-
in all seriousness, Dobbo, but both interviews or both comments on radio, it's highly emotional, highly charged by, I think, two people that care about their football club and care about what's going on. And they finished the season last year. They were top of the table at rounds 10, and they've gone into free fall, and it's clear frustration. There's been a lot of news story around South Sydney for the past 8 months of the departing of a club legend, Latrell injured, the highly emotional, the incidents that happened in Las Vegas. And I think, South Sydney have started the season already under pressure, and they start with 0-2. They play the Roosters on Friday, which again is usually an emotionally high-charged game.
It would be emotionally high.
Yeah, and Latrell has come away from the field on Thursday night after losing again, and it's it's frustration. Did he use the wrong words? Absolutely. But
Absolutely.
But I've been in that position myself where, I was criticised for some of my actions on the field. You're not a good role model. But that's just me being overcome with emotion. I was wrong to do what I did. Granted, but in that moment, I'm not even aware that people are watching or aware that people are listening. And there's obviously a difference when the mic's in front of you. But look, he shouldn't have used those words. And he knows he's wrong.
I don't think it was calculated.
I don't think it was calculated.
It was a loose carry.
In 2005, remember when the West Tigers did it?
Oh yeah,
I remember
after the grand
after the game
final.
at Matty
After the grand
Johns,
final.
and there was and it was one off. So it's not the first time it's been done. I just hope that it's a lesson to everybody. Is it wrong? Yes. Is it you know what I mean? Should it have happened? Definitely not. Could the interview have stopped it? Absolutely. Should Latrell have not said it? Absolutely.
Latrell needs to learn the lesson, Gordy. He's got to be better.
Absolutely,
and
he
he's enough
Will the
of
game come down on him?
Well, I know that they're furious at head office about it, and South Sydney privately are fuming about it as well. They just feel as though it was totally unnecessary.
Here we go. Can I ask you a question, Hoops?
Yeah.
It's a rhetorical question.
Mm-hmm.
Does Latrell have too much power for that club?
It's a big
Go on.
question, Gordy.
Well, answer it.
I don't know. I'm not inside it, am I?
What do you
James
mean?
Graham
What do you
said
mean
than
by
all of us? You're
what do you-
closer than all of us to South Sydney.
What do you mean by too much power, Gordy?
Well, sometimes you don't want to upset the apple cart.
Well, part of the reason why
Like, and
Sam
I know when
Burgess
some
is no
players
longer
are there,
there,
like
Gordy.
say a Jonathan Thurston, like an Andrew Johns at Newcastle, right? There's different rules for the great players. And it's a known fact. Like, mate, there's a famous, and I forget his name, there's a famous NFL coach, and he dropped a guy and this reporter walks up and goes, "You wouldn't have done it if it was a quarterback." He goes, "Absolutely not. That guy wins me games. That guy doesn't." So there's different rules for different players in organisations.
Yeah.
Mine is Latrell's rules in the game different to other players in the game?
I would
especially
say yes, Gordy, based on the fact that he's such a big figurehead and such a big role model within not just South Sydney but also the game. And you referenced there Joey Johns as an example. Like there's no doubt that when Joey played, of course, there was a different set of rules because of
There's rules for Alf.
Yeah, that's right.
And our
Because
club.
of the class of player that they are, and the results that they can
I
deliver.
agree.
But I think in relation to Latrell, let's go back to last year. The reason why Sam Burgess is no longer at that club is because he expressed that view to the hierarchy of the club, and people didn't like it. And Sam's a man of his word and a staunch style of character. And once he said something, he wasn't going to back away from it.
Well-
and it ultimately led to he's now overseas coaching in the UK Super
I want to
League.
ask you three this.
But hang on,
Hang on,
but
I wanna ask
just
you
on
three
that,
this.
Sam,
Hang on, Dobbo.
well, like some of the things that were reported about Sam, you could argue that he was once that person as well.
Absolutely.
True.
Sam had his own set of rules when he was playing too.
Because
Definitely.
of what he did.
Because he won them
Yeah.
the first comp in 43
Yeah, exactly.
seasons.
So look, and also again, like we speak about, maybe that's why Sam Burgess isn't there in a assistant coaching role. But the reason that Souths didn't play playoffs last year was because Latrell Mitchell got injured. So that's how important he is to the football club. The reason why they were top of the table to begin the season was because of Latrell Mitchell. So like it's a very difficult balancing act, and in any organisation, we like the idea of equity and equality, and we treat everybody fairly and everybody the same.
We all know
But
that doesn't happen in the real world.
Well, it's either-
It's great in the classroom, but in the trenches, at a highly charged emotional sport where different people contribute differently. And look, the evidence is there about when Latrell's on the field, when he's playing well, and what that means for South's results. So basically, Souths they don't walk on eggshells, but they know they need that one person fit, happy, firing on all cylinders, carrying the team, because they know how important he is to results.
Is he one of the top 5 fullbacks in the game?
Yes.
Okay, so who do you leave out? Dylan Edwards? Is he better than Dylan Edwards?
Yes.
Is he better than James Tedesco?
Equal.
Is he better than Turbo?
Equal.
Ponga?
Better.
Better than Walsh?
Latrell Mitchell
Well-
is a freak. Like, what you don't
So
get
you
is
think
when he
he's
plays
playing-
Origin, it's a totally different thing. So Latrell had his best.
I'm just asking the question: Is he
Well,
in the top five
well,
fullbacks
okay.
in the game?
Okay,
Okay, what
terms
did
of
Ponga do
better.
yesterday that Latrell didn't do on Thursday night?
Latrell didn't. Sorry, I missed that question.
Right. So Ponga, who I think is an unbelievable player, right? They have their moments. When you get an effort player like Dylan Edwards, right?
Yep.
Or you get someone that played with me that makes 40 tackles. I used to make 14 or 15. Is he a better player than me because he makes 40?
No,
Do you know what I
it's
used to say
different.
to Wayne? The reason why that bloke's making 40 because people are running at him. Right? So there's certain things. Latrell doesn't have to have the 200 and 300 metre games. He has so much of an influence by the short pass. The Reece Walsh, it was an unbelievable battle. I sat there and watched it at Fox and I'm going, our two fullbacks, one's a young rookie. You saw Latrell make that break at the end and score his 100th try. What a try. And if that was to win the game, we would be going, wow. Mate, what a moment for him. And they're both there. They're cramping. I don't think both teams are at their best. I think there is a bit of a Vegas hangover. I know that I'm still not feeling 100% from coming back, and I'm not training and playing at their level. So is Latrell in the top five? Absolutely.
100%.
And then I reckon you'd be a game person to say he's not in the top five fullback.
Well, and also, look, you can compare fullbacks and attributes and what they bring. You don't want Latrell Mitchell to play like Dylan Edwards. Like, that's the last thing you want. Like, you don't want him to model his game on Dylan Edwards. No. And who's better? That's subjective. But I think you look at the fullback position is arguably the most important position. Is Latrell Mitchell more important to South Sydney than what Dylan Edwards is to Penrith? Absolutely. Is he more important to South Sydney than what a Walsh is to Brisbane? Absolutely. You could make the case that maybe him and Tommy Trbojevic are exactly the same on terms of how important and the chances of that team's victory are. Trbojevic, we know when he's not there from Manly, I would argue Manly are in a better position this year to deal without Trbojevic. Maybe Kohler would go to fullback, and obviously now they've got Luke Brooks in there. But I think South, it's hard to think of a player that is more important to their team's chances of victory than South Sydney and Latrell Mitchell.
Look, yesterday afternoon, down in the nation's capital, the Raiders had their second win of the season. They looked very, very good once again, 32 points to 12. Their coach, Ricky Stuart, joining us on the Sunday Simbin. G'day, Stick. How are you, mate?
Hey, Dobbo, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Well done. Congratulations. You must be terribly proud of this side so far. Everything that you've worked through the off-season, they've delivered a good win first up against Newcastle. Then yesterday against the Tigers side playing their first game of the season, they put them to the sword.
Mate, it was good. A lot of stuff we've worked on in the off-season, as you said, without having to repeat it. But they've been improved on. So we worked really hard as every other team has. But you can only rely on the hard work you've done, and I'm really happy with what they're doing at the moment. But it's only round two, mate.
Rick, there's been plenty of headlines about some of the next generation young guns who are emerging in the game at the moment. And one bloke who hasn't had too many at this stage, and I'm sure you're right with how he's playing, though, is Ethan Strange. You must be really pleased with the job that he's been doing for the side so far.
He is, yeah. He's in a lot of responsibility in a very important position on the field. So, pressure comes with that, but he's handling it well.
Hey, Stick, it's James Graham here. Congratulations on a fantastic start to the season. Morgan Smithies comes over and he has just excelled. He works so hard. Has he exceeded your expectations and what you were anticipating his start to the NRL career would be?
He's exceeded probably the way, for such a young boy, he's actually played a lot of football in the Super League. And as Joey Tapane said yesterday in the press conference, probably, I think some of the Super League players and standard is probably not respected as much from some people, where we've done a lot of research on Morgan and we worked hard to get him to the club. It's all worth it. Parties that probably exceeded for me was his transition into the NRL standards immediately, where Elliot, I think I said to the journos yesterday that Elliot Whitehead transitioned across to the NRL standards and intensity very, very quickly. But he was a little bit older and had a lot more experience. But he's a very similar person to Elliott and player to Elliott Whitehead. And if he's anywhere at the standards of Elliott over the years, he's got a good future in front of him.
Stick, help us out, set the record straight. So when Xavier Savage scores that try off the penalty when you go the short side, there were reports on Fox that you'd actually said you'd yelled out special, or some sort of move. Talk us through it. What happened there?
Mate, well, that was just a play we had, and we had to have it on the left hand side of the field, and Jamal was going to kick to the right hand side. So I wanted it on the left.
Was that a play that was designed specifically for the Tigers, or is that something that you've got in your arsenal against any opposition?
Well, it's against any opposition now, Jimmy.
Listen.
No, it was designed for that game, for that edge. So, but again, it's got to be executed, and they did a really good job, both Sebi and Zave.
Gee whiz, you've got some headaches, Stick, with obviously Elliott coming back in and Corey also to come back into this side in the coming weeks, and the way Zach Hoskins is playing as well. It's a good situation to be in.
Yeah, it is good, but the players that are there in the first 17 have to play well, and it's like that type of pressure is what's required if you're going to have a successful season. You need 17 individuals each week playing their best game of football and not having a day off.
Now, mate, I've known you for a very, very long time, but politically, I've never thought that you would go down the political route. I mean, proud of you, yes. Disappointed and surprised in other ways. What yesterday, pushing an agenda on a new stadium. Come on, Stick.
Mate, it smelled like walking past a bathroom you'd have been in. Mate, honestly, there was a sewage leak. And it was. I felt sorry for the visiting team. I felt sorry for the people who had to work in the underneath there at the stadium. It was awful, and mate, and I'm not going down no political path. I'm not doing an Aussie or a Mal, I can tell you. There's got to be some common sense too. We're the nation's capital, and we've probably got the worst stadium one of the worst stadiums in the competition.
Is there a chance that you could, and I say this in all seriousness, like there's a lot of sport that's played out of there with obviously the Brumbies playing there as well as the Raiders. And
be a lot more, mate. That's the thing is, there would be a lot more, mate.
Yeah,
we'd have other big sporting fixtures at a new stadium, but we're not getting one. So it's common sense is obviously not on the agenda.
Rick, also when you go forward, you obviously you've had 2 wins. You take on the Warriors next week. Are you looking as like, okay, in blocks, that's a real test for you as well? I mean, I understand Newcastle's hard. You beat the West Tigers. You now take on the Warriors, and they're going to be desperate as well. So you start turning your attention to that. They're a very good side. Is that where you really benchmark where this side's at?
No, I don't benchmark them. You blokes do that. You've done a really good job at doing it too, because we're not going to make the 8.
Hey, Dobbo declared that.
No, I did not. Hang on, Rick knows I never did that.
Come on, mate, tell the truth.
Rick,
don't lie on national radio, please.
I've never said Canberra didn't make the 8. He knows I didn't. He knows my loyalty's too much to Rick. If I said that, he'd shoot me.
Ricky, just with that, and obviously we got a glimpse into the dressing rooms. There's language on the wall that would never be used on Triple M unless Dobbo's hosting an interview with someone. But is that all part of the narrative? It's like it's Canberra against the NRL. It's Canberra against the world. They don't believe in us, but I believe in you, and let's prove everybody wrong.
No, James, mate. Going back on what Dobbo was talking about there a moment ago. Every NRL game. Have you ever played an easy NRL game, Jimmy?
No,
probably not.
No.
Every team is desperate that week, whether you're 6 in a row winning or if you're 3 in a row and a losing streak. Every football game, every NRL game is high intensity, and each player is desperate to win, keep his position. Each coach is desperate to win, no matter where you are on the table. So we take every game as a must win. We take every game in a desperate situation ourselves.
Well, you guys are going along bloody nicely at the moment. Raiders, they're a top 4 side, as I've said all along. They're a premiership threat and they're a big chance. And you know what? I'm all on board. You know, Ricky should be back coaching New South Wales and Australia as well.
Anyone born in New South Wales and goes to Queensland to live and calls himself a Queenslander, I could not believe.
I know who you're talking about, Ricky, but anyway, we'll catch up with you next time. Thanks for being on the Triple M Sunday Sin Bin. See you later. Stuart, this is the Sunday Sin Bin on Triple M.
Shut up! The foot is on Triple